Hello and welcome to In the Ethical Arena, the podcast and video series providing candid conversations with local public officials about the leadership, responsibility, and commitment linked to service for communities across South Florida. My name is Dr. Tony Doral, and I am the Executive Director for the St. Thomas University Institute for Ethical Leadership. We are so proud to welcome you. Our host is Don Sleznick, an individual who continues to practice leadership and shape change with the people of South Florida after serving as the mayor of Coral Gables for 10 years. This episode, our podcast and video library, and the amazing perspectives our guests will be sharing create value for aspiring public leaders and those seeking to serve their fellow citizens to lead change for our world. And now, without further ado, I present Don Sleznick.
The Ethical Arena is pleased to have as our guest Juan Carlos, J.C. Bermudez. Juan Carlos is the mayor of the city of Doral and one of Florida's fastest growing communities. When not serving in City Hall, J.C. is a practicing lawyer and has been for 30 years. He holds degrees from the University of Miami and the University of Notre Dame Law School. He was the founding mayor of Doral, and after a brief respite, he was returned to the mayor's office by the constituents of that city. And so, JC, welcome to our interview, and it's great to have you.
Well, thank you, Don. Thanks for the opportunity to be here with you, the St. Thomas family, and all the students also, and the faculty.
Well, and as you know now, we have an Institute for Ethical Leadership, and we're trying to give them the opportunity to hear from some of the respected leaders of our community. And of course, we consider you one of those shining examples. So it's good to have you. And so let's start off by just asking you, and in fact, what we've asked other mayors is what motivated them to seek public office. But in your case, it's kind of special because there is a real special reason why you sought to be the mayor of Doral.
Yeah, well, you know, my situation is, I guess it's unique, but it's really the reason why most people get involved. I had moved to Doral in 1998 from Miami Lakes. My mother had passed away, and my father wanted to live with us and be closer to my sisters that lived down south. But he wanted to live with my wife and I. So when I moved down here, you know, I was told by a fellow friend who turned out to be the first mayor of Palmetto Bay, Gene Flynn, who told me, you know, there's an incorporation movement. And when I had gotten here, I saw that there were no parks, that the roads weren't, the schools weren't getting built. I think we had one elementary school at the time. The roads just weren't getting finished. I went to that one supposed park and see if there was any, you know, swings for my kids or a place to play soccer, and there wasn't. So I was like, okay, that doesn't work. So I got in. I got a little bit involved and started in the process, helping out at a group that was around at the time called the West State Federation of Homeowners Associations. They in turn had a weird relationship with a then sitting county commissioner who I didn't really agree with because I felt she was not being very fair to us as a community in our efforts to incorporate. You know, we started our own group because the West State Federation felt that, you know, well, you can't really challenge the commissioner. And I'm not going to get into using her name, but eventually she had to resign from office. So I got involved and put my name in for what was then the community council, the precursor to the city. And, you know, I was very active. I had, I think, like 12 communities speak on my behalf. Lo and behold, I got there, you know, and I lost to a person who was there by themselves. And I learned a lesson, which was, even though I'd spoken to the 5 members of that board, let's just say the powers that be didn't want me, even though I had been helping them to be the person that could be on the what was then with the community council, which is Doral Community Council 9, I believe was the number. And I went home, and my wife said, I told my wife, well, this doesn't make any sense. You know, the county commissioner says, even though the community is supporting me, that I can't represent this community. And I just got, you know, you either got to stay, and I don't want this place to become a city if it's not done the right way. We either got to move or I got to fight. So Dawn, she told me I had to fight. So essentially, she didn't want to move from Doral. She loved it, and that began my process of where we started one Doral, and went through the whole process. Eventually, the commissioner was removed from office because of legal problems. The new commissioner, Jose Pepe Canjo, was a Doral resident and named me to the community council. I then ran for the community council and was elected. So, and eventually people asked me to be the first mayor.
A great story too. It really, but one of the things that you said in there, I think is important for people to hear, the importance of leader's spouse in the process. And as you pointed out, making that decision was in part her influence.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think, look, I got to tell you, and I know that people ask me about the experience, and at Leadership Miami one time I was asked, and it was a very bad feeling to know that that the powers that be, even though you're the most qualified person, somehow feel that you'd be too zealous of an advocate for that community to be allowed on that council. So I'm not telling you this. She had not been there, maybe the answer would have been different, but I had to get her approval because, at the time, we have 3 children now, but back then we had basically a 5-year-old and a 1-year-old. So it wasn't easy to take on the challenge of helping start a city. And she just felt it was worth it. And she loves Doral and felt she basically told me, well, I give you permission to fight.
Right. Now, one time later, you left office and then you came back.
Yes, I did. I left office after my original 9.5 years. The first term was 5.5 years. The second one was 4 years because we were a brand new municipality. I think, for me, I never expected to come back. But unfortunately, I learned another lesson in politics. You can spend 9.5 years building a city from scratch. You leave with people very happy about it. And in less than a year or two, all your work can be undone. The person that replaced me, who spent an incredibly inordinate amount of money, large amount of money to get elected, and to be fair, the majority of his council just felt that everything that we had done had to be changed. So needless to say, the residents asked me to come back because the city was not going in the direction that we had founded it. I ran against 2 incumbents, actually, the mayor and the vice mayor. Both of them were incumbents. We ended up defeating them and winning by 34 points, 67% to 33%. My opponent raised over $1 million. And I think probably if you look at the size of our municipality, it's probably the most expensive race per vote in Dade County history. But we were able to defeat them and get us back on track. And, I wouldn't have done it except the residents felt very strongly. They again reached out to my wife. They started a petition drive. And being the founding mayor, I kind of felt it was a little bit like my baby. And I'm like, oh, we're going in the wrong direction. This is really luckily we were able to get elected. Had a couple of allies get elected, and today we have a pretty unified council that's back going in the right direction.
Very good, and congratulations on that. But listen, every public official has their own leadership style, and I know you have your own. And how do you consider your style? How do you describe it, and why is it effective for you?
Well, Don, to a certain extent, I'm a policy wonk, as you know, and I like to read a lot. I like to see best practices. In fact, when I was president of Miami-Dade County League of Cities, we started the best practices. One of the things I'm most proud of, they do it every year now. The best practices day for when all the municipalities in Dade and Broward get together to learn from each other. So I love to read and see what we can do to be more effective. I will tell you, I have a strong character. I think to be a mayor, you have to be. I'm not a wallflower, as you know, when it comes to expressing my opinion. But I think, I like to learn from others. I don't think any one of us has all the answers. And I think that when elected officials make mistakes is when they believe that they have all the answers. So for me, it's a matter of constant improvement. I think that the day you stop learning should be the day you're no longer on this earth. And I think that's, I would tell you that's my style. I'm certainly a person who has strong opinions, but I'm very open to the opinions of others who are experts in areas that can help us go in the right direction.
So I take it other people have described you as a good consensus builder, and I think you do that with fact and with information, right?
Right, absolutely. You know, sometimes people ask me, you know, you always get in local government, you can say, well, how come the whole council agrees with you? I'm like, have you ever met them? They all got strong personalities, but I convince them with facts. And, you know, they tend to say, okay, you're right. You know, it's not a matter of me just snapping my fingers and everybody agreeing with me. It's a matter of uh, convincing them with facts. And really, you hit upon a great word, building consensus, because I think a great leader has to build consensus.
I think that one thing that I realized in reading your resume again, and that people may not realize, that people may not know, is that they see the mayor in the mayor's office doing the things that they would consider are important to their city. But you're very active in the U.S. Conference of Mayors and in the Dade League of Cities. I mean, that's important to you, isn't it? And why is that so?
It is because for two reasons. Number one, I think that you learn a lot from your colleagues, whether it's at the Miami-Dade County League of Cities, the Florida League of Mayors, the Florida League of Cities. You know, since you've headed the Florida League of Mayors, how important it is to learn from our colleagues, the U.S. Conference of Mayors. And second of all, you get a lot of great ideas there. You know, as elected officials, we don't need to reinvent the wheel. There may be a wonderful idea that Orlando may be carrying out that we're not carrying out down here in South Florida. So if you see it's been effective for them, maybe you want to give it a shot. And vice versa, by the way. I tell everybody a great story of the U.S. Conference of Mayors is our first grant, the big grant we got was a $800,000 COPS grant, which is a matching grant. And that came about because at the U.S. Conference of Mayors, being on the board of the conference, I became friends with some of the people that were there on behalf of the people that managed the grant. And, you know, the investment in itself, that one trip got us an $800,000 grant. I mean, I think that pays back for itself pretty well.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, tell me this, you know, in today's political climate and in today's use of social media and the never ending constant, just the TV and radio, and it's always people watching what you're doing. Do you come across times when you feel like you have ethical issues that you have to resolve in your own mind and your own self? And if you do, how do you do that?
Yeah, I think you do today across the board. Because I mean, I think you've always had to in politics, and I think now it's gotten worse because of the fact that television, the 24-hour news cycle. I would also say the ability for people to write whatever the heck they want about anything without any basis makes it very difficult because they write a lot of, and it's not necessarily the residents. It could be somebody with special interests. It could be somebody who just wants your position. And it's very, very difficult. I mean, in the last campaign, I had both of my opponents attack, spend hundreds of dollars, thousands of dollars in attack ads. I didn't put one out because I felt that, you know, my personality and what the residents understood about me was that, you know, I stood for transparency, ethics, and, you know, the residents didn't buy into it. But it's difficult to have your family and your children say, hey, Dad, why are they putting you on TV in that fashion? You know, it's not an easy thing to see. I think the way, Don, you know, I'm a big reader and, you know, obviously I'm a man of faith. I'm a practicing Catholic and, but I've really gotten into studying Stoicism, the Greek philosophy, and the last of the great Roman emperors, Marcus Aurelius, who wrote the book Meditations, had a very simple quote when it comes to ethics. You know, don't ask what a good man should be, just be one. And I have that sign here in my office. And whenever anybody comes that gets a little bit on the gray line, I remind them, please take a look at that sign because that's the way I govern my life.
You know, that's such a perfect ending. We're not going to end right there, but that is so good. And I hope that our students pay close attention to what you've just pointed out and what Marcus Aurelius said. That's a great quote. So let me ask you this, though. Do you have any words of wisdom? I mean, there's going to be a lot of, well, a mix of people, some younger people seeking bachelor's degrees, some older people seeking master's and doctoral degrees in ethical leadership. Any words of guidance, wisdom that you might want to impart to them?
Yeah, I think that what I would say is that, look, when it comes to ethics, there's going to be different levels of times where you're going to be tested. And I think that the one thing you have to fall upon is going back to the prior quote is you got to feel comfortable that your ethics are what you stand for. I always tell my kids, that it's not the economics, which everybody needs. It's not necessarily the big car, the big home, but what they're going to remember me by is what did my dad stand for? My father, I came from Cuba at the age of 3. My father lost everything, had to start anew. And the one thing I always admired about my father was he was a businessman, didn't even like politics. He was proud of me at the end, but his original advice was, I don't know why you're getting into politics, but my father had one thing that I, when he passed away, and I tell my kids always stood out, is he was the same type of man at home as he was in his business. I think, Don, and both you and I are lawyers. You can't be let's call it a shady politician, but a great lawyer, or you can't be a shady lawyer and a great politician. It's very difficult. You either are ethical or you're not. Now, being ethical doesn't mean that everything has to be black and white, because, there's a fine line between legal and ethical. They're two totally different things. But I think you have to strive to be the best you can and have the best practices. Sometimes there's things that may be legal, but they really don't look good, and you shouldn't do them. And in the end, you've got to look at yourself in the mirror and make that decision. I have had that experience in the practice of law. I once had a chance to represent somebody who was connected to the Cuban government. I couldn't do it. It would have been economically great for my law practice, but somewhere up there, my mother and dad would be looking down, and I just didn't think it was consistent with my values.
Very sage words of advice and observation. And JC, we really thank you for being part of this effort and being willing to speak with our students and with other people that watch these programs. And if you have any further words for us, please feel free.
Yeah, well, Don, first, thanks again for the opportunity to you, the whole team at St. Thomas, and obviously to all those who are watching as the students. Feel free to reach out to me. I think that, what you guys are doing is great. I think now more than ever, in particular in public service, not only the elected side, I want to be clear on this, those of you that are going into public administration, because the ethics issue runs across the board for all of those of us who deal, with public service. And it doesn't have to be just an elected person. So, I would tell you this, none of us are perfect, but look at the man or the woman in the mirror. In the end, you got to answer to yourself. And I think that it's important that the right thing be done. And sometimes the right thing is not the easy thing. I'm reminded over and over, there's a T-shirt from Jocko Willink, the Navy SEAL / writer, that says, discipline equals freedom, right? And I think that, you have to have the discipline to do the right thing. You have to have the discipline to take not the easy path, but the right path. And if you do that, I think that you're going to be successful, because it doesn't mean that, and there's been this connotation in American society lately that to be successful, you can't be ethical. And I think it really is the opposite. I think to be really successful in life, as the way it should be defined, you have to be ethical.
Well, from us here at In the Ethical Arena, that's a wrap. Another episode in the books. We hope that you've enjoyed this episode, and we want to say thank you to the mayor for the time, perspective, and leadership shared today. As we close, it's apropos to note that leadership is not about knowing. It's about doing. The mayor puts this into practice each and every day, and we want to say thank you for that. We hope that you've enjoyed this installment of In the Ethical Arena and hope that you join us again next time. This is Tony and Doral signing off and reminding you that leadership is a process, one that cultivates action that will grow into amazing things for our world. However, we need you to plant that seed. Thanks so much for listening. Take care out there and have a great day.